Right? So this video will talk about zero sum game. Now, are you winning every day, or are you losing and not knowing, not knowing that you're losing? Um, one thing about trucking is that time is money. Okay, so the time you spend behind the wheel is going to generate your revenue. Time you do other stuff is going to cost you money, especially if it's beyond your 10-hour break. That's time that you could be driving. I think when we look at capitalism, and we all live and operate in a capitalist society, money, the world evolves around money. As much as some liberals want to say love makes the world turn round, well, nothing puts it in gear until there's money. So, from my perspective, money is the energy of how the world runs. So time is money, and when you think about how do companies steal your money, if we say time is money, how do companies steal your money? Well, typically they steal your time. You're like, you didn't really think about that, but they don't steal your money from your bank account. What they do is they steal your time. So when you get these customer surveys, satisfaction surveys, okay, they want you to spend your time giving them feedback on your customer experience. Now, you may like doing surveys, but I find it annoying after a while because you can't buy something or purchase a service without a follow-up email or text message or phone call asking you for customer service, your customer experience. Well, they're taking your time. Time is money, so they're taking your money. If you're giving them your time, you're giving them your money. Think of it that way. Your time is valuable. You're a small business owner, your time is extremely valuable. Because time you spent on non-productive activities is wasted time. There's time you're going to have to put towards accounting, finance, maintenance planning, preventative maintenance. Just trying to stay healthy. You could spend time on that. But spending time on customer surveys, that's a waste of time. That's a waste of money. It's your time. It's your money. You know, uh, and if they're not doing customer surveys, they're sending you marketing emails. It's terrible. Now, I get from Love's app all the time, TA, Pilot, Flying J. I got unsubscribed from all these, things because I have the rewards card, and of course they want to send me reminders about, their marketing, and this is taking my time. This is kind of like taking your money. If you're spending time on it, you're spending money on it. So you got to think about this in terms of what's your time worth. Because these companies are just constantly hitting you up to spend more and more of your time so they can collect more and more of your data, to get their surveys done and so on and so on. Even Walmart, you go through the self-checkout line and they throw up them 5-star category. How was your experience today? I just got to the point where I no more customer surveys, no more. I'm not doing it. At first I thought, well, this is good. A couple of years ago when I was doing it, still doing it. I was like, oh, this is good. You can leave them some feedback, but all you're doing is helping their business make more money. You're not helping yourself make more money. You're spending time making someone else rich. So you got to think about that. It's like they're asking me to spend my time. Well, if I spend my time, that's like spending my money because my time is valuable. Um, I think you could look at many things from this perspective. Like, say you're watching, Netflix. Okay, those actors get paid based on the royalty of that production. So the more viewers, the more money they make, especially if it's like reruns. So almost any activity you do is making money for somebody else, but it's not making money for you. And you got the advertisers who are are interrupting your programming so they can entice you to buy their products. So you're wasting time watching commercials. I hate that. I hate commercials. I really do. I understand the necessity for them, but it's wasting my time. And even Sirius XM satellite radio, I'm listening to business channels, and then it comes some stupid commercial that I've heard 10,000 times. I just flip the channel. I'm constantly flipping the channel because I don't want to hear the stupid commercial, or I'm hitting the mute button, because I don't want to waste my time and energy thinking about their stupid commercial. But these are all time wasted activities. Almost anything you do entertainment wise, whether it's watching college football, pro football, baseball, basketball, all that is based on the viewer experience. You're investing your time to be entertained, and yet they're making money based on you watching, their program. If you weren't watching, they wouldn't make money. So like, you think NFL quarterback salaries are outrageous that they're being paid, $100 million a year to run around in pajamas? you know, uh, Stop watching. I guarantee you, if people stop watching, they won't get paid. So obviously your time is worth something. Because these sports athletes make tremendous amount of money. Do they deserve it or not? I don't know. But in a capitalist society, it rewards things like that people want to see. People are willing to pay money for, and they're willing to spend their time watching. Yeah, it's like HBO does these heavyweight fights, and the number of viewers that they get for a big title fight, like Mike Tyson versus Holyfield, or Mike Tyson versus George Foreman. Sales go through the roof, viewership goes through the roof. So obviously your time watching these programs, the sporting events, is worth a lot of money to companies. I see even now, or shippers and receivers, they're collecting a lot of data on you. You put your name, your phone number, your driver's license, your state, and then I start to see now they want your email address. And I'm like, I don't have email. Actually, I have 2 emails, but I'm not giving them my email address. Why in the world do they need my email? I've already given you my driver's license number and my phone number. Why do you need my email? They're just collecting data. Your data is worth a lot, and I don't know what they're doing with that data. I mean, the log sheet, they got 100 different drivers every single day, all their personal information. Who's to say they're not selling that and making money? So you get all kinds of stuff on Facebook. It's all targeted. And Google same way, targeted ads. They got a profile on you. Whether you're an online profile, they know exactly how old you are, and they've got all kinds of marketing targeting specifically towards you. So then when you participate in these surveys, and you're providing your data all the time, you're feeding this cycle. They're getting more and more data on you. You're spending more and more time responding to them, and they're getting richer and richer off you. You're not making any money. You're not getting paid to fill out these surveys and fill out all these forms with all your personal information. Who's really bad is the doctor's office. They're getting really, really bad. They want to take your picture. They want to know your life history. They'll create a medical profile with you. And you better hope they never share that with the insurance companies, because then someday the insurance company is going to raise your health insurance costs based on all the information you shared with your doctor over the years. Digital records. That sounds like an innocent thing, right? Well, what's wrong with digital health records? Well, it's fine if it's going to be used for health purposes, but if it's used nefariously by bad actors, then you are providing them information. You're making other people rich. They're getting really rich off of you spending time giving them data. They, it's like your information, it has a price. There's a price on your head, you know, and you're a willful participant, So, as a small business owner, I look for opportunities to cut out waste, and not only waste in terms of spending, but waste in terms of time. I look at things that take up a lot of my time, and I look for efficiencies. And I get this stuff in my email and my text message box. I'm like, that's a complete waste of my time. All I'm doing is making somebody else rich. I'm not doing it anymore. And and here's a one. If you decide to change doctors, the doctors don't like that because they want you to come in once a month, meet and greet, tell you see you next month, don't do a damn thing, but yet they charge your insurance company. And God forbid if you want to skip that month's appointment. They're like calling you, reminding you all the time, you got an appointment, don't miss your appointment, And it's like, I changed doctors, you just haven't realized it yet. I actually had to block one of my doctors. They kept calling me. I haven't seen them in months. I changed doctors. You'd think if I didn't respond, you'd get the hint, but no, they gotta get you, in the system, and then they gotta keep you on the system. Whether you need it or not, it's not important. They gotta bring those patients in to spend 10 minutes with a doctor, so the doctor can bill your insurance company. This is just wasted time. So total waste of time. Oh, and prescriptions. That's another one. Like maybe a blood pressure prescription or prescriptions for other things, and they give you a 30-day supply. And so, like, you're a truck driver, you're traveling the whole country, and you run out of your prescription. Now you got to make a special trip back to get your prescriptions. So I had to fight with my primary care physician to give me a 90-day prescription. I'm like, no, 90 days, not 30 days. Because they just want you to come back in the office and renew that prescription. Well, this is a complete waste of time. You got to look for things like that. You got to think in terms of how much is your time worth per hour, and how much time are you spending on wasted activities that make other people rich. Doesn't make you rich, makes them rich. You got to think about that. Like, why am I doing this? This doesn't make me money. If it's not making you money, why are you doing it? It's because they're making money. So you're gonna have to decide whether you want to continue that or not. I changed my prescriptions in 90 days. And I've fired some doctors and replaced them with other doctors. Find doctors that are going to work with me and not just put me on the gravy train, to make them rich. So this is stuff you have to think about, small business owner. All this wasted activity, all this wasted time, whether you're wasting time on YouTube or wasting time on Facebook or Twitter or X or something else, your time spent on those activities is making somebody else rich. It's not necessarily making you rich. So either you're making money or somebody else is making money. And in my book, I'm the one making the money. I don't care about the other people making their money. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.